My name is Sarah Yore-Van Oosterhout. I am the founder and managing attorney at Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, located in Holland, Michigan. We are a nonprofit immigration law office and advocacy center, and we actually have a huge victim advocacy program. I think we have a tendency of looking at populations that have been deemed marginalized, or we have a tendency to look at populations like immigrants seeking asylum in the United States, or we look at countries south of the US border, and we typify them, we stereotype them, we think of them like in a mission type concept, like a group of people or a country that's less than and in need of help. And so the reason I think it's so important that we take a step back and examine the systems that create the violence and the vulnerability is so that we also see ourselves within the system. So we're not just seeing the other, we're not identifying an other that, has all these problems, but we're also looking at our own countries, at our own communities, and we're identifying with this and realizing, wow, there's a lot that we need to fix right here, that this isn't just somebody else's problem. I think when we're talking about gender-based violence, it's really easy to blame the people. At least in the work I do, I get really angry at the rapists, the abusers, the traffickers. And a lot of times, because the work that I'm doing is focusing on very micro level aggressions and violence, it's hard for me to see the big picture, the system, the society or societal influences that created that microaggression. We have a country here in the United States that was built on colonization, was built on the oppression of indigenous peoples. It was built on the oppression of Black populations, of slaves, eventually of Latinx immigrants brought in for labor, Chinese immigrants. Like, it's just like the history of the United States is oppression. And these policies were largely made by white men and continue to be made by white men. If we truly want to be seeing change on a systemic level, women have got to be there. We need to elevate female leadership. When we join together, when we join forces, we're able to really change those systems and policies of violence. We're able to provide support to each other, and particularly support to people who have experienced violence. And we're able to provide support and intervention in places where there is high risk of gender-based violence. We think of people coming to the United States because of push factors, like they're being pushed out of their country. And so countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, we see a lot of gender-based violence. We see it, in the form of sexual violence with gangs and cartels who are using it as a manipulative technique, as a punishment. And then we also see it in the form of domestic violence. Guatemala, for example, does not prosecute domestic violence like we do in the United States. That forces people out of their country. So they come fleeing to a place where they think they're going to be safe. They think they're escaping it, but they get here and they discover, oh my gosh, we've got gender-based violence, pretty much in the same form as I was experiencing in my country. There are systems that need to be changed. And so a powerful tool for changing those systems is, again, the broad-based organizing, the people power. So coming together, churches here in Holland have banded together to form two different coalitions. We've got the Faith Leaders for Justice, and now we have the Lakeshore Coalition for Racial Justice. So I think it is so important that as church members and church leaders, that you look for ways to create these coalitions, to create these networks, and look for ways that you can change the systems, look for ways that you can change things within your community. And it's really working here in Holland. We see faith leaders using their positions at the pulpit to influence change, to speak out on behalf of social justice and oppressed members of our community. Create these services within your community that are going to combat things like gender-based violence. It's such an amazing opportunity for churches and individuals to reach out in that way.